Hello, everyone. My name is Bond Burnett. I am here to talk to you about one of the most frustrating things that you can ever experience with clients, which is when you use all of your hard work and your knowledge and your insights and analysis to think about how you can really change and impact a company, and nothing happens. One of the big reasons for this is because you're dealing with people, and as they say, communication is key. If you have found that sometimes your insights are going in one ear and out the other, and you think, I'm not really making the most of the analysis and the forecasting that you've spent all this time creating, you've got these beautiful charts, you've got these beautiful data visuals that really show what could happen within a company. You've done this incredible forecasting using Fathom's tools, and suddenly just nothing really happens. People aren't responding, they're not asking you questions, they're not taking action, and it can feel hugely frustrating. I get it. I do. I've been there. I have also been in practice myself, and I've had those conversations. But one of my special tools, I now work with people on their communication skills and how to communicate data specifically with impact. I do this with CFOs and FDs. What we're going to look at today is 5 absolute non-negotiables so that you can have game-changing client communication, so that you can really feel like you're making the best impact you can, that you're building relationships, and that you're helping those decision makers within the company actually get the most out of your forecasting tools, out of your advice, and really understand what's going on in their business. I suppose it's kind of empowering them to really do more. And that's the whole point, isn't it? Now, this is the thing. Here's what goes wrong traditionally when we're really wanting to make an impact with people. Sometimes they just don't really understand. They're looking at the data and the visuals, and they're really pretty, but it's the way that you're communicating it. It doesn't really hit. Either they're not very analytical, or they're thinking about other things in the business, or they can't quite picture how it works and what the forecasting will do to impact them. They also might not feel brave enough to really ask you those hard questions, or sometimes what they feel might be a stupid question. That one I've had come up a lot. I don't know if you have as well, which is suddenly if they feel like they can't talk to you or ask you a really what they feel is a daft question, they don't want to feel stupid. And they don't want to feel like they're a lack of a business person, really. They're going to feel like, oh, if I ask this really daft question, what are they going to think of me? You want to have a really trusted relationship where you go, look, there is no stupid questions. I'd far rather you ask me anything you don't know. I'm the finance person. I understand it. Use me, use my expertise so that I can help you be better at this. That's really what you want. So it can be the fact they're going, well, I don't know. I can see what's in this for you. I can see why you would want this to happen, but actually it's not what I want for the business. It's not what I see happening in the next year. People have different desires for the business, different objectives, different KPIs, and somehow you've got to be able to speak to all of them. There's a great quote by Rory Sutherland, who's the chairman of Ogilvy, and he does a lot in behavioural science and basically how people work and how people make decisions. And Rory often says is that people no more run on logic than a horse runs on petrol. So this is what we're going to really approach today. We're going to go into 5 simple ways for you to really understand the illogical nature of humans and how you can really simply be a better communicator. Now, this is one of the reasons it's so important. Now, I mentioned the word trust. I want to ask you the question, why do we present figures? Why do we sit down and have a meeting and talk things through and show and get together and present to the board, or have that conversation with people? Why aren't you just sending them a document with access? And you might be. But the reason why business works in this way is because we really need to get a feel for who someone is and what they're doing, what they believe, and if we can work with them and get on with them, and are they credible? This is all what we call the trust equation, which is something I'll definitely advise you to have a look at. It's a really great framework to see how trust works, and it's really brilliant for anyone who's delivering a service, really, especially as a professional. The trust equation is that trust equals 3 things. intimacy, in being that closeness and that ability to ask the questions, the ability to understand one another and make sure that you have that connection with each other. So intimacy plus reliability. Are you going to do what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it? Do we know that this is correct and this is the right data and we can make great decisions here? Plus credibility. How do you know what you know? What insights do you have into my business specifically? And how can you use that? That's intimacy, reliability, and credit. That is all divided into one thing, which is self-orientation. It's a bit of a funny way of saying what's in it for you. It's a case of, this is why we have that idea of the cheesy car sales guy or whatever other stereotype I can think of, which is what's in it for you. Are you just trying to sell something to me? Are you just trying to give me some data that I don't really find valuable at all? Is this really accurate? It's about what's in it for you. If you have all of those components, then you have trust. And trust is really important now more than ever. There's a trust survey that is done every year. It is called the Edelman Trust Barometer. I'm just going to show you one of the insights from it. You can download it for free online. It basically looks globally about our relationship with trust and information and how this affects businesses. This is from the 2023 report. It's been going for 23 years now. And as you can imagine, trust is at an all-time low. We have never lived in such a time, or at least in the last 23 years, where we've been so polarized to opposite ends. It even has things about how much we're willing to help someone if they have a difference of opinion. If I said I loved pineapple on my pizza and I got knocked over by a car outside and someone came to find me, please help me, but I love pineapple on pizza, and they don't, and they think there's pineapple belongs nowhere near a pizza, then they are actually 70% less likely to help me, which is a really sad state of play. This is where I feel if we could learn to better communicate, learn to better understand one another, then you can bring together, certainly within a business, better decision making, better communication, unity, teamwork, innovation, faster growth, all wonderful things if we just learn how everyone works. This here you can see in the global report. We've got the red, which is distrust, we've got the neutral, and we've got the highly trusted. What you might notice here is, funny enough, we very much distrust our governments. And our governments, for a business owner, are the ones that are giving business advice, setting taxes and policy. So the fact that they're the most distrusted is not great. That means they're going to be looking for someone else to go for information. It's not journalists as much because they don't really trust them that much either. As you can see, trust grows when it's citizens of my country, people in my local community, my neighbours, my CEO, my co-workers and scientists. And this is where I feel that you fall in, and this is where I feel that communication has a really great place to be if we can actually work on that intimacy as well as the credibility. You've got the reliability, let's work on that intimacy part as well as the self-orientation part so that you can be highly trusted. Business leaders especially need you. What you'll notice here is that these are government body journalists and CEOs, but up here in the trusted section, apart from scientists, we have my. So it's that connection, it is that intimacy to be really trusted that you need. We're going to go into this 5 non-negotiables for game-changing client communication. These are 5 things that you can implement and really have fantastic relationships with. You can make sure that they're really understanding you and they know what you're talking about. They know what they're going to do and they want to do it as well so that they can make really great decisions. Number 1 in the non-negotiables is serve others and serve them well. Self-orientation, which I mentioned before, is all about how you approach something. And a lot of the time when we know it's the right answer, I can see what's needed. I know what they need right now. And that's your job, isn't it? To give them what they don't know and to give advice. But we're not very good at taking advice sometimes. Sometimes we haven't actually asked for the advice and we don't want it. Think of it this way. We all know what we should be doing to lead a healthy life. You know that you should be drinking tons of water, that you should be exercising more, and that you should be eating more leafy greens. You know this. It's not a knowledge problem that you have, it's a doing problem. And sometimes we need to feel about what's in it for you. Are you just telling me what to do because that makes you feel good? Or is this what I want and what I want now? Coaching as a tool, as in pure coaching or executive coaching, this actually is how that works. Rather than telling, it's about saying, well, what do you want to do? When you're serving and serving well, and all of your approach to communication and sharing information, especially with data, is formatted purely around how you can help them. What do you need? That's the best question ever. What do you need right now? Right, I've created this budget and this forecast based on your objectives. And you could do that per person as well. So, okay, what is your objective in the marketing department? What is your objective when it comes to sales? What is your objective when it comes to supply chains and things like that? Let's have a look at how the forecast actually impacts all of you. If you're speaking to different people, or if you're speaking to one person, just simply ask that question. Where is it that you want to be? And speak to that. It's such a simple thing, I know, but sometimes we forget to go, well, I know what I want. I'm going to have to just push that one to one side and go, I'm going to make sure that you get what you want so that you can get there. It's a pure motivational tactic, really, is to focus on what they want. Then you're really going to be working on that trust. Makes communication really easy because we're showing up to serve rather than what we know is right. It can be very conflicting as a professional because we can sometimes see what all the problems are and we know exactly what they should be doing. They have to want to do it. So really, if you approach with the serve and serve well, then you will hit the nail on the head for them, and they're going to be more inclined to listen and take action. Number 2, this is more of an efficiency-based tool. When you are communicating, one of the biggest problems can be thinking that your value lies in how much you say rather than what you say. It is quality over quantity. When you are having a conversation and you're presenting details, and you've asked them, what do you need? Leave space. Give them space to answer, because you are there to gather as much data as well as to share information. The more information you get from them and you give them space to talk, the more that they can actually fill in the blanks about what they're looking for, what their expectations are, what their knowledge level is in terms of understanding data, also what they're trying to get out of this and where they're at emotionally. Think back to the horse and the petrol. We've got to speak to the illogical, which is to say the emotional side as well. Sometimes we think, especially when presenting, the quality of what we say is really based in, like, if I fill up this space, I will have been super valuable. I'll have given them everything I know, then they'll be blown away, and then I'll have done something worthwhile and I will feel valuable. Well, that's not the case. In fact, if you're a speaker or a presenter professionally, a facilitator, a trainer, actually, one of the worst things you can do is fill up with too much information. We don't have a knowledge problem, we have a doing problem. When you are giving so much information, these are the things that can happen. You can overwhelm people. It's too much. We can only remember so much, and really you want to focus on one thing. When they leave the session, how do you want them to think? What do you want them to do? And how do you want them to feel? It might be that you want them to take action in the HR department. You want them to feel calm and empowered. You can end up having filler words as well. So if you're someone, you get nervous when you're speaking and you're communicating and you end up saying, so obviously, like, and lots of other colloquialisms that slip in under the radar. This is literally because you're trying to fill space. So my recommendation, if that is something that bothers you, is you need to get comfortable with silence. That can be a scary thing. In fact, Silence can be one of the best negotiation tactics out there. The FBI use it. It's mentioned in The Wolf of Wall Street with Jordan Belfort. He uses the quote, "He who speaks first loses." So get comfortable with silence. It can be really powerful. If you're trying to get information out of your clients as well as share information, the less you say, the more they're going to speak to fill the silence, and then suddenly more is revealed. More you get comfortable with a pause, the less likely you're overfilling information, and the less likely you're going to use your ers, ums, and sos and filler words. Another really great tip is that if you are practicing going through the data before the real thing, is that then record yourself and use an AI tool. There are loads of transcription services or AI recording tools. You can even speak into a Google Doc and use your transcription or on your phone. And you can see how you are speaking. It'll feel a bit weird and a bit uncomfortable. That's why sometimes it's easier to read it. I use so a lot. I start with so. When I'm doing like a podcast or a recording like this, I'll look at the transcription and I'll just see all these so's and I'm like, oh no. But that way you raise awareness of what you're doing, and then you can actually take action about it. You'll become hopefully conscious but not self-conscious of it, so that you can pause or take a breath as you feel a so or a like or an sneaking in. Make sure that you're really prioritizing quality of what you say and the questions you ask and how you tell the story of the numbers, rather than just filling up with information so that you feel like you've achieved something. Number three is more of a technique, and I've almost alluded it to already, which is that showing is better than telling. And this is a non-negotiable. Again, number 3, non-negotiable. Showing is better than tell, or show, don't tell. As advisors, it is super easy to go and just tell someone what to do. We've been told what to do all the time, but to change behavior, we need to show. If someone isn't listening, not engaging, or they're not taking action, it is something where you're going, right, how do I need to change behavior? What we're trying to do is actually develop better habits and actually share information in a way that really sticks to their brain and makes them want to do something. That's where you're going to be super valuable. I'm going to teach you a few ways that you can show and not tell. And I'm afraid it is really simple. It's something you already know how to do. It's storytelling. Now, storytelling is powerful. We've been using it since the dawn of time as a way to share our insights, to share our information. Brené Brown says, storytelling is just data with a soul. And that is your job as well. You are the guardian of the data, of the financial reports, of the engine of a business. It is your job not only to create the data, the analysis, and then present that, but it is also your job to present it in a way so that the data can clearly speak to the business owner and empower them to make the better decisions. We have created this ingenious way of sharing information so that our brains can remember it. We can think once upon a time stories are fantastic, or even fairy tales, but they're actually neurologically very, very clever. There's a university in Toronto, and they study storytelling and how it impacts the brain neurologically speaking. When we tell a story, or when an actor is reciting a story, they scan their brain as they're speaking, and it lights up so many more areas of the brain, rather than if we're just sharing a statistic. And that's what we want. We want to use more parts of the brain so that we're kind of sticking the information into more places than just one place. It's quite hard to remember just a statistic. 67% of statistics are made up. But it's a case of, what can we do to make this really memorable and give it a soul? Speak to the illogical as well as the logical. This is where you can use storytelling really effectively. Stories are using emotions, like how we feel. They're using the senses, like getting a sense of painting a picture. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it going to make you scared? Is it going to make you happy? It's also creating an image for the brain. So we're using imagery and visual. It is using the way that we hear and speak. That's how stories work. And that's why they are one of the most powerful and effective ways of sharing information. Your ability to be a data storyteller is something that will transform your relationships. I'm going to break this down in a really easy way for you to understand. Telling a story is about how can you paint the picture of what the data is saying. Data is fantastic because traditionally speaking in accounting, it's looking at the past, telling the story of what happened before. Once upon a time, we did this and all of this happened. And you've got the visuals to show it as well and to support your story. But forecasting is all about the future and what the possibilities are. Now, this is where you can paint the picture of what could happen, what would happen if they take certain actions. These could be happy things like this growth could happen here. If see this is an upward trend and we could do this and this and this. Or it can show a downward trend, like if we don't take action now, then something dramatic is going to happen. That storytelling is super easy because it only has 3 things: a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so does your data. In between each, there is the problems or the conflict that makes us interesting and grabs our attention, something to solve, something to overcome. Then we have the solution or the resolution or solution, like what could we do about this? It's a very easy framework to look at with your data points is to say, what is this telling us about what has happened? What is this telling us about a problem? And when we look at where we want to be, or because you've asked the question, what do you need? Where do you guys want to be? This is what is going to happen. And this is also what's going to happen if we don't take action. And it gives you a really clear way of sharing the story. Number 4 is a fantastic tactic for you to employ to make your communication really sing. Number 4 is actually speak their language. I can't tell you how many times I've been brought in to work with people on a conflict and it's simply miscommunication. You know this better than I do, that miscommunication happens all the time. We misread something in an email, or we misunderstand where someone's coming from, or even we think, oh God, they're being really rude, or they're being overly happy, or they're not taking this seriously. There are all of these verbal and emotional cues that gets taken out of context, and we can make assumptions that aren't helpful. This is where it's really helpful to understand your clients, how they like to receive information, and what their personality is, so that you can speak their language and not your own. I use DISC as a great personality tool. It's based on Jungian psychology, which is to say that there are 4 quadrants of personality. A lot of the personality trait tools are out there that use this. DISC is just a really lovely, simple one because it focuses on traits. So not who you are, but what your preferences are. Now, we're all 4 of the different quadrants, which is dominant, influential, steadiness, and compliance. 2 of them are very task focused, 2 of them are very people focused, 2 of them are very outgoing, and 2 of them are very reserved. The more you find out about you and which you are and where your strength lies, the more you understand about how you share information and how you like to. So here's a question for you. When you are learning something and you are looking at reports or forecasts or data, what do you like? Do you like to get straight to the point? Or do you like to have all the information and evidence about how they led up to the conclusion? Do you like to have some warmth and personality in it? Do you like to feel good about the data and see it as, do you like it in clear visuals? Which is it that you like? Because your clients will work in the exact same way. We all like to be spoken to the way we like to hear things. I think you should speak to people the way they would like to be spoken to. As I say, conflict can happen all the time merely from a miscommunication of how we share data. Someone who could be perceived as very abrupt because they just get straight to the point. They're the person that emails and just writes a 1 sentence like, how's it going? Or not, hey Alex, what's happening here? Or how was your weekend? None of that. They get straight to it. Someone who is more reserved and people focused might find this too abrupt and actually think something's wrong. Have they done something wrong? Have they offended them? Have they got cross? This is where there can be conflicts of interest. Someone who is fast-paced can get very bored and fed up if they're not getting to the data right away. Someone else who is giving too much data might completely lose and disengage someone who is more outgoing, of the influence scale, and kind of people focused. Getting to know yourself, getting to know the language of your clients and how they like to share information is really handy. One thing I'd recommend is that you could use personality tools. You could also listen. Listening is one of the most powerful communication tools in your tool belt, and you can practice it all the time. So often we're listening just to know when to answer and return and reply. A lot of the time we're not actually going, well, what's going on here? And active listening is brilliant because then you can go, I hear what you're saying, but I'm actually watching you. I can see your eye contact and your body language and facial expressions, and something's not quite right here. I'm spotting something else. Have you got another query? What are you concerned about right now? And then you can also speak to it. But with active listening, you can also notice how they ask questions and how they speak. Do they get straight to the point? Do they like to tell you about their weekend and what they've been up to with the family? Are they really quite jolly and outgoing? Are they very cool and methodical? Do they like to give kind of references to the processes and how they got there? Are they very loyal and warm and accommodating, like always happy to help? All that kind of thing. All of those things, the way that they type, the way that they speak to you, are clues. And you can write down on your client files, what kind of person are they? How do they like to receive the information? So with this person, get straight to the point. With this person, give them the evidence so they can see how you got there. It just makes it really easy. And then you speak their language instead of yours. Number 5 is don't be a hero. I know I said about storytelling comes up a lot, but don't be a hero. I want you not to save the day for someone else. It's not your job. That is not your job. And in fact, when we employ this mindset shift of jumping in and not being the hero, then something really remarkable happens. It kind of puts the focus off you. So if you do get nervous or worried or anxious at all, then it'll calm that down. It actually helps you to serve them and serve well and listen to their needs. And it also really empowers your clients to take action themselves rather than you just giving them all the answers and creating a dynamic where they think you're going to do everything for them. This is a really powerful mindset shift that I use with people when it comes to negotiation, communicating, presenting, because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, storytelling is one of the most powerful formats and structures for sharing information, but we can use that in a different way, which is to say, who is the hero? Now, in any standard meeting or conversation, everyone thinks they're the hero in their own story, and that's really natural. There's this kind of internal dialogue, which is, what will happen to me? How will I achieve this? And it's a bit me, which is fine, but we can be really clever about it because your client is also in that lead character hero mindset. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? Which is why we serve. So who is it that serves? Well, in storytelling, we have the hero, we have the villain, who is the bad guy or bad thing, because it could be a problem rather than, it's not a person. It could be anything that is a challenge to overcome. It could be poor cash flow, it could be staffing, it could be productivity, it could be low sales, it could be any one of those challenges or problems. Who else could you be in that case when you're presenting information? So we have one specific character who fits into what you do really, really well, and that is the mentor or the guide. These are the kind of Yodas, the Gandalfs of the characters. They are someone who is worldly wise and they've been through the mill and they have knowledge, they have wisdom. They also have tools or gadgets or technology to help the hero overcome their challenges. And so do you. You have forecasting tools like Fathom. They're brilliantly human, because the focus isn't on them. They don't have to be perfect. They can just be them. They're often some of the most human characters you'll get in any story. So next time you watch your favorite film or book, I want you to watch out for who is the mentor in this, who shows up at the moment that the lead character gets stuck and gives them everything they need to be able to overcome the challenge. One I use, because Bond is my name, is of course James Bond. James Bond does not get through a single movie at all without, he'll get stuck at some point. And it's that point where his new car or jacket or pen or gadget or whatever it is the one thing that Bond needs to overcome and move forward in the story, in the journey. And that is what forecasting tools should be for them. They get to the point they don't know what to do, what options they have, or what decisions clearly, because they can't see it. They haven't got the tool or the gadget or the wisdom from you. If you position yourself as the Gandalf, as the Yoda or the Q in the story, you're communicating in that way, as in, I am here to help you overcome. When you need it, this is how you're going to use this story. Then it makes it so much more powerful than if you are the one trying to overcome your challenges. It puts them first. It empowers them to take action because they start thinking about how they are going to use it rather than someone else. It also gives them a very clear view of what they're going to do to reach that end point. It's a really powerful tool to use when you're communicating so that you can be more effective and more impactful. To really put that into action, I would love for you to really see when you can use these next. Are you going to start recording yourself to check how you fill space and what quality you're giving? How can you get yourself into that mentor mindset and go, this isn't about me, this is about the client. They are the hero. What is their challenge? How can you tell better stories? Where could you start? What do you see in the data? What is it saying to you? And how can you be the better guardian? And ultimately, how can you speak your client's language so that you can serve them and serve them well? And with that, I will leave you. Have great client communications, and I hope this has been helpful. Take care.